Sun is out. Broad is in to Brathwaite. Brathwaite is stuck on the pad. Big appeal for him, but it's given in. That is Broad's 500th wicket in Test cricket. And I think Brathwaite is walking off. He was absolutely plumb. It went low, it struck him on the pad, bang in front. And Broad has made the breakthrough. You said it, Carlos. It's the time for Broad to wreak havoc. Well, he's done it, and he's also got to that milestone. His 500th wicket in Test cricket. It kept horribly low. Brathwaite could do nothing with that. Struck on the pad, bang in front. Umpire didn't hesitate.
Sometimes I do hate to be right. But congratulations, Stuart Broad. He's worked very, very hard. Put himself under a bit of pressure after the first test, and then he's coming back to the on the field and richly deserved. Craig Brathwaite won't be happy touring England. He was 500 for Jimmy Anderson 3 years ago. He's 500 for Stuart Broad now.
Well.
Chris Wokes or Joffer Archer might be 400 on the next time Craig tours England. But no, probably unplayable.
It was. We were seeing a replay of that. There was nothing that Brathwaite could do. There's no disrespect to the batsman. There's nothing he could do at all. That went about a foot off the ground, if that.
Yeah.
And it jagged back sharply. It was an impossible delivery to face.
It was an absolute brute, but he got there, and that's the main thing. Let's get some statistical context then, shall we? Andy, can you put that achievement, that milestone into context?
Well, he's the seventh bowler to reach 500 wickets in Tests, the fourth seamer, after Courtney Walsh, the great West Indian, Glenn McGrath, the perennial tormentor of England in the Ashes, and his long-time teammate, friend and colleague Jimmy Anderson. Broad's reached it at the age of 34, the second youngest of those seven to reach 500, behind Murali, so the youngest of the four seamers. In his 140th Test, that's the longest of any of those seven bowlers to reach that. It's interesting looking at the breakdown of his career, as we were talking about earlier on. The last 100 of the 500 wickets, if you break it up into his average from wicket 1 to 100, then 101 to 200, has been the lowest average, averaging 22.7 for his last 100 wickets. Previously, his third 100 was the best in terms of average at 26.5, also the best strike rate at 48.4, and the second best economy has gone at 2.8 per over. So he's had a great sort of resurgence after a slight dip in his career. He never had sort of bad stats over a period, but the sort of wickets had dried up a bit. He was down to about 3 wickets a game, still useful without those magic spells that we talked about. And when it comes to his, the magic spells that have defined his career, as I mentioned, this is his fourth 3-wicket spell in the 2 matches he's had this series. And looking at his stats in innings in which he's taken 4 or more wickets, he has one of the best averages of bowlers in those innings. It shows how when he's on one of his hot streaks, when he's on form, he's been especially effective. I think only Vernon Philander has a better average in innings in which bowlers have taken 4 or more wickets. He's tied with SF Barnes for the most sixfers for England. He's taken 12 sixfers for England. Jimmy Anderson, I think, only has 5. So again, that's further evidence that Broad's hot streaks
on a roll
have been particularly hot. And again, it's worth looking back, as we did with Jimmy Anderson earlier in the series, to how he started his career. He was very relatively ineffective as a bowler. His first 20 tests averaged 40.2 with the ball. I think there was 52 wickets in those first 20 tests. Jimmy Anderson averaged 39 in his first 20 tests. So they're tales of huge personal improvement and selectorial patience in a way that maybe England selectors in previous generations would have thought these players are never going to make it. But with greater patience, greater stability from central contracts, and faith in the ability of these players and the way they've continued to work on their games, they've both improved vastly over a prolonged period of time.
And strike rate wise, that's always a key number. I always thought it doesn't matter with the spinners so much, but those seam bowlers that are ahead of him and Broad, where does he sit with those?
I'll get the full list of those, but I mean, in terms of his personal strike rate, again, if you look at the 100-wicket blocks we're talking about, his first 100 wickets, wicket every 69 balls, then 55 balls, 49 balls, 64 balls, and the last 100 wickets, 48 balls. So he's been particularly penetrative over recent years. His overall strike rate is a wicket every 57 balls. I'll just get the list of. I've got so many stats. He's melting my computer with all these. But
you always feel that a wicket in 10 overs or under is going well for a seamer.
Yes, and we've seen particularly the last couple of summers, as tougher stats suggested, early on in innings he's been particularly effective, and we talked about his batting as well. Early in his career, his batting was tremendous for a lower order player, and that dipped significantly for a prolonged period of time, sort of either side of the instant when he was hit in the face. But suggestions of a resurgence this year. So he maybe hasn't turned into the all-rounder that people had hoped at the start of his career, but has probably become a much better bowler than the early suggestions. And I think you'd know better, but I think he started bowling relatively late in his child cricket career. Looking at the strike rates of the highest wicket-taking bowlers in Test history, he's pretty much he's on a level with Shane Warne. Obviously, spinners are slightly different, and cricket's changed in terms of the way batsmen attack and the risk that they take. So Broad at 57.8, Courtney Walsh. Broad 56.8 strike rate. Courtney Walsh 57.8. Glenn McGrath 51.9. Anderson 56.3. Broad's average, well, it's the best it's ever been at the moment. In fact, when he took that 500th wicket, that took it to 27.98, which was the lowest it's ever been.
Right.
And this match is the first time his average has dipped under 28 after that slow start. So if you look at his personal peaks in terms of the best 25 match sequences he's had, his last 25 match the best 25 he's ever had, to within a 1 decimal place in terms of bowling average. So there were times, I'm not sure he's ever been written off, but there were certain questions asked about his place in the team, his effectiveness in Test cricket. But over the last really since the start of the New Zealand series early in 2018, after a difficult Ashes for him and for England, he's been probably as good as he's ever been.
Lovely, thank you, Andy, very much. And I'm trying to remember, scratch my brain, when he actually shortened his run. It was a couple of years ago. I think might coincide very much with that period that you're talking about. I think it's probably been 2 years now since he hits that crease much harder. And
a lot of the data suggested that particularly last year and the year before this period, which he's had this resurgence, his length has been fuller than it had been over the previous couple of years, and he'd become more of a containing bowler.
Well, there's some nice symmetry about it all, with Craig Brathwaite being the 500th wicket for Broad, but also for his partner in crime, Jimmy Anderson. And I've been talking to James about his old mate joining him in the 500 club.
Stuart. I'm absolutely delighted for him. He's, he's worked so hard. So, particularly the last few years, the work he's put in on his action, behind the scenes that people don't see. I think just a credit to himself, really, and absolutely deserves 500 wickets. He's been phenomenal for England. He's led the attack. He's hat-tricks, fifers, amazing spells, match-winning spells, and fortunately for me, I've been able to be a big part of that and see quite a lot of that, and we've shared some amazing moments together. And I think, I think creating memories like this just makes us want to go on and do more. We both feel fit. And still hungry to get wickets, so hopefully we've got a few more left in the tank.
Any spell or performance that really sticks out in your mind as being something that we're not in favourable conditions, or something that really think, crikey, that's a great performance?
The one that always sticks out in my mind is 2009 at the Oval, when the game was sort of not really going anywhere. We needed to win the game to win the series. Pitch was flat, wasn't much swing. And he just came on and blew people away, got Ponting out, and got the big wickets, and I think he got 5 or 6 wickets in that innings, and that won us the game effectively. And obviously people talk about Trent Bridge and the 8 for 15, but for me the ones where it's not in the bowler's favour, when it's a flat wicket and not doing a lot, and he just makes something happen, and it's a very special gift to have, because not many people who've played the game have got that ability to change games.
Yeah, you clearly are a very close couple on the field. What about off? Are you generally big mates off the field as well?
Yes, we are. Yeah, I'd say we're very close friends. Yeah.
Do you talk about bowling off when you were just being friends away from cricket?
We're normally dissecting Michael Vaughan's comments that he's made about us in the media. No, we speak most days, to be honest. Whether it's it can be about cricket, it might not be. But I think it's certainly having that sort of relationships helped us on the field. Definitely being able to have those awkward conversations as well. It's not always nice things you've got to say to each other. You've got to maybe give each other a kick up the backside every now and then. So it's having those difficult conversations as well. And I think when you have that relationship where you're quite close, you know that you can have an argument and then brush it off 10 minutes later. So that's definitely helped us. But yeah, someone who I see him quite a lot as well away from cricket. We play golf together quite a lot. Got lots of interests outside the game. So that's another nice thing that we've got, is that I'm sure years to come we'll still be catching up and talking about all the wickets we took.
Yeah, there's something typical about Stuart, that this series actually, he gets dropped. He's angry. He makes it clear he's angry as well. It's a brave thing to do, to go out there and put yourself up. I should be playing, because you've got to back it up. And there's something actually typical about him, the fact that he has done that.
Yeah, I think it sums his character up completely. He's very determined, very sort of narrow-minded, I guess, in some respects. And when his back is up against the wall, he finds a way of showing everyone what he can do and the sort of player that he is. And yeah, getting dropped obviously hurt him at Southampton, especially after the last couple of years that he's had. He's been brilliant for England, and as I said earlier, led the attack absolutely brilliantly. And he was hurt, and he obviously said what he said. He's come back and backed his words up, and he's been doing that for years. So to be honest, every time he gets dropped or there's something said about him, he manages to show people what he can do, and always backs it up with his actions.